This is the plaintiff, Keith Barnes. He says he rented a house from the defendant, and no one told him the place had been vacant for over a year before he moved in. The place had a family of raccoons living in the house, and he saw 7 on his first day there after moving in. He was scared out of his wits living with those creatures scurrying around. He's now suing the defendant for $5,000 for all the money he had to pay out of pocket, and says the defendant should be ashamed of himself for subjecting him to these outrageous conditions. This is the defendant, Leslie Jones. He says the plaintiff's a real estate broker in the neighborhood, and he reached out to him to find a tenant. He told him he was interested in the place for himself, and he signed a 1-year lease, which stated the premises were to be used for private use only. He then found out he was running an illegal business in the house. He knows full well he was running an illegal operation in the house, and now he's mad because he's been exposed. That's the only reason he filed this outrageous and unjust lawsuit. Owe him $5,000? Ha! He's accused of renting a Racoon-den.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case in the docket, the plaintiff rented a house from the defendant. Turns out there was a family of raccoons that scared him to death. But the defendant says the real reason for the problems is the plaintiff was running an illegal business. It's the case of the Rocky Raccoon Crib.
Thank you, Douglas. Keith Barnes, you are suing Lisa Jones and Leslie Jones. Leslie, you have power of attorney from Lisa?
Yes, I do.
Okay, ma'am, but that's okay. For $5,000, according to you, you're actually out $13,000 for expenses to run your shelter for parolees, because according to you, it's his fault that that wasn't covered by the government. All right, how did you two know each other to start off?
He has a shelter in the place that I'm renting before I got there, and one of the ladies that was in the shelter introduced me to Mr. Jones and his family.
Okay, are you saying that Mr. Jones was running a shelter from that place before you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, for how long had he been running it?
I don't know how long, but it was a shelter before I got there.
Okay, and so what happened?
I found out the place was vacant and that, it wasn't being used, so I called him and asked him would he be interested in renting me the place.
Okay.
And he said yes. At that time, I told him that I wanted to have a shelter for parolees. I told him that. And he said it was okay. I had to get insurance and all that kind of stuff to run the place.
Okay.
So he knew that I wanted to have it for a shelter.
Okay, and then what happened?
What happened was 2 years.
So how much were you going to pay?
I paid $2,500 a month.
Okay, and your lease says that it's for private use. It doesn't say it's for a shelter, correct?
I don't have a copy of the lease in front of me. I don't.
May I see the lease?
Yes, ma'am.
What do you end up doing? You open up a shelter. What does that mean? Tell me what you do. How many people live there?
19 men. What I do is
19?
Yes.
How many bedrooms are in this place?
9.
There's 9 bedrooms in the
Yes.
place?
You use bunk beds.
Okay, were the bunk beds already there?
Yes.
Bunk beds were already there?
Yes.
When you moved in?
Yes.
Why were bunk beds there? Did you ever run a shelter there?
I ran a recovery home for those suffering from alcohol or substance abuse. It was a ladies' home. We had 7 ladies in the residence, and it had not been vacant. It was vacant for over 2 years.
Okay. So when he rented it out, which what you say says for private use, did you know he was going to run a shelter there?
Absolutely not.
I don't know about that, because it sounds like you'd be the go-to guy to ask you about how to handle it. Did you have a permit to run a place there?
Absolutely not. And the reason why we stopped running it because the government told us we needed a permit. They came and did an inspection, and they said that the house was not zoned for that, so we stopped.
Yeah, I can't imagine the neighbors are going to say, why are there so many people coming in and out of that house? 19 people? In any event, let's move on from that. How long are you paying rent there?
I've been there since June of 2016.
Okay, so for several years.
Yes.
All right, and then what happens one fine day in February? Oh, by the way, how does that work when you run? How do you get government funding?
The Department of Social Service pays us.
And how much were they paying you?
$471 per person.
Okay, so all that time passes. Then in February, what happens? February of this year?
February of this year, a letter came to the house saying that the house has a foreclosure date of May 1st of this year.
Now, when you rented it, it was already in foreclosure?
I believe it was in foreclosure for 3 months.
It had been already when you rented it?
Yes.
And that was disclosed to you?
Yes.
And then you both see, well, let's see how long we can drag this out. Were you paying any mortgage during that time?
At that time, no, but would
So from 2016 till 2018, did you pay any mortgage?
no, but
So you were just pocketing the $2,500, good deal all the way around for everybody but the bank. So you're pocketing his $2,500 every month and not paying a mortgage. How much was the mortgage?
the mortgage was $27 a month.
And then you're getting almost $9,000 a month for shoving 19 people in there.
Your Honor.
Okay. All right, now let me understand what happens. In February, one of your residents opens up mail that was addressed to resident.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and it says foreclosure date May 1. So what do you say to him?
I called his wife and told her that we got a letter saying that the house is going to be foreclosed May 1st and that I wasn't going to pay rent no more
And why?
because I had to relocate 19 men. I had to find a new house.
Right, but you weren't relocating during that, I mean, during that time, people were still living there. Why would you be free from paying from your obligation?
I am paying. I'm up to date with rent as we speak now.
No, that wasn't my question. What would give you the legal right not to
I didn't
pay
have
rent?
no legal rights.
Correct. So February, you end up going over to the shelter, and you two have a little blowout, correct?
I actually went to his office on March 1st. He waited
Okay.
to the day of rent being due. My brother and I went to his office, and that's when he told us, I'm not paying rent.
Okay.
I said, why? He said what he said, and I said...
What was it he said? Because
he
you're
said
going to be foreclosed on in 20 minutes.
He just said, I'm not paying rent, period.
Uh-huh. Well, you said why, and what was his answer?
And he had no explanation. All he said is, I'm not paying rent. He just kept telling me that. So before we got into a big argument, we left. Come to find out,
Oh,
a
wait,
letter...
slow down. According to you, the big argument happened right there.
The big argument, no, it wasn't an argument because he did all the talking. I just sat there. And I
Okay.
said, I'm not paying rent.
Did you tell him why?
Yeah, I told him that I'm not paying rent because the house is going in foreclosure.
Okay. And what did he do?
He got upset and started getting loud and smacked I had a flyer on my desk. He smacked the flyer that was inside of plastic and cut his hand.
How do you know he cut his hand?
Because he showed me the blood. He cut his hand.
Well, what did he say to you when he showed you the blood? Now look what you made me do? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then,
That's not true.
Go on.
okay.
Well, at that point, we went back home. I spoke with my wife, and we started eviction proceedings against him
Okay.
for
Did
non-payment
you
of rent.
also call whatever organization was paying him $9,000 a month?
I wouldn't know who they were. I had no contract with them. He was responsible for rent. He was the person I was dealing with. He's the only person I knew.
Okay.
So I had no idea who he was getting
Did
rent
you ever
from.
squeal on him?
Excuse me?
Did you ever squeal on him? Did you call the county or the city and say, hey, he's running
I called the building department.
Okay, that's what I'm asking.
They went to the building.
So you called the building department, and the building department went over there
Yes.
and said cease and desist.
They said there's overcrowdedness, there's locks on doors. I have a report to that, and that he's running an illegal
And
DSS
your
shelter.
response was, much like that fellow in Casablanca, I'm shocked and appalled to see gambling in my establishment.
Well, I was...
You had no idea.
So how many roommates could you tolerate? This dude had 19. How many could you tolerate?
Well, I live with 2 right now, so I guess I should say at least that number. But I've lived.
Can you tolerate them?
I can tolerate them. I've lived with 8 girls before.
And?
Not a lot of bathroom time.
Okay, what do you say?
No more than 3. 3 is probably the top I would be able to do.
What do you say, man?
4.
4? One more.
Depends how much bathrooms you have.
Let's say you have 3.
3? Shoot, I could do like 6 if I have 3.
Oh, I thought you were going to say like 80. Going inside the courtroom.
Let me see if I understand your lawsuit, Keith Barnes. Your lawsuit is, Judge, he squealed on me, and now I'm not entitled, apparently, to have 19 men living in a house. And so I had to pay these people's expenses for March, April, May, and June. So because he's the squealer, he should reimburse me for what I was doing that I had no right to do. Have I got it?
Somewhat, yes.
Yeah. It sounds awful when I say it. So now, why would I make him pay you when you're not supposed to be getting paid to house the men in a private residence? That's why they stopped paying you, because you're not supposed to be.
No, that's not the reason, Your Honor.
Oh, why they stopped paying you?
What happened was Mr. Jones went to Social Service and spoke to Mr. Roberts. He's an investigator for Social Service. He went there and told Social Service that I was collecting rent from Social Service for the 19 guys, that I was a fraud, that no one was living in the house. Social Service sent over Mr. Roberts to the house to investigate They realized the men were still there.
Okay, so then
And-
why'd they stop paying you?
They said that they do not pay rent for a house that's in foreclosure. That's why they stopped.
Okay, so you're not supposed to be getting paid.
Because
the
the
house
house is
was
in-
in foreclosure.
Yes,
All right.
ma'am.
All
I didn't
So then
realize-
why does somebody have to reimburse you because all of a sudden you can't get what you're not supposed to get?
If the house wasn't in foreclosure, I would still be getting paid right now.
Except for that when you rented it, you knew it was in foreclosure.
But it was only 3 months on it. At that point, you could do an order to show cause, you could do a forbearance
Boy,
agreement.
everybody's got it down,
Yeah.
man. Everybody's
You can
got
do
the
a short-
lingo down.
Be honest, Your Honor, me and him talked about doing a short sale. He was going to sell it to me.
I'm trying to understand your lawsuit. Someone needs to recompense you because you've been wronged. That's what a lawsuit is.
Yes.
Okay? At first, you start talking about, oh, it was a terrible place that had been abandoned. There were raccoons everywhere. And that was, you know, you had to bring the place back to life and all this other stuff. All right. Except the reason you stop getting paid is that you're not supposed to get paid if it's in foreclosure. I would think that you're also not supposed to have 19 men in a residence because there's rules about that. But whatever reason, you stopped getting paid. You stopped getting paid because you weren't supposed to get paid. So why should somebody else all of a sudden now turn around? Seems like it was a really bad idea not to pay the rent, right?
No.
If you're raking in $9 grand, maybe you should just go ahead and pay the rent and relocate because the place is going to be in foreclosure. But instead, you decide that you're going to take the $9 grand. But it's a thing of beauty. And then you're complaining when it's exactly what you were doing on a smaller scale. You're collecting the $2,500 and paying the bank nothing. Okay? You both are gems. You deserve each other.
Yeah.
And let's all do it in the name of Christ. Why don't we do that?
No, not me.
Your
Not me.
Honor, we were trying
Stop talking. Thank you for amusing me that the court would ever entertain ordering someone to pay you 13 grand or 5 grand or a penny to be able to run something you have no right to run and charge for at the moment in a place where you, as a realtor of all things, know that you shouldn't have the right to run. No, I'm not going to order him to pay you. That's my judgment. Good luck, folks.
Thank you.
to. Thank you.
This is very close to what they call in the law unclean hands. That means when somebody sues, they got to come in with clean hands. If they are as dirty as the defendant, if they've done something illegal or wrong, and they were just taken advantage of, generally in a situation like that, the judge throws them both out of court. And that will do it for this case. Litigants for the next case on the way into the courtroom right now.